Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. We're talking about the big breaking news today that Watford have officially appointed Roy Hodgson as their new manager. We're going to be talking all about this big breaking news story. We're going to be talking about Claudio Ranieri's reign a little bit as well. The former Watford manager who was yesterday sacked to make way for Roy Hodgson to succeed him. But before we go any further and talk about this story, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into this story. It is the least fun manager merry-go-round in the entirety of world football. We all knew this was kind of coming. Claudio Ranieri yesterday was sacked to bring in a new manager in the form of Roy Hodgson. The news comes days after the latest defeat suffered by Watford at the hands of Norwich on Friday night. The Canaries were 3-0 winners in what was seen as a huge relegation battle, where the Canaries managed to win that game and leapfrog the Hornets, more animals there than in the David Attenborough documentary, out of the relegation zone, while simultaneously leaving Watford in the bottom three. Admittedly, Watford's form was terrible. There was no win in their last 8 games for the Hornets, only 2 wins in their last 13 games that Claudio Ranieri was in charge of in total. It seemingly was only a matter of time before he was given the sack, especially because, you know, the writing seemingly had been on the wall right from the beginning because of how Watford Football Club do their business and how they treat their managers. As soon as things begin to nosedive quite drastically, that's when the club pulls the trigger rather than attempt to ride out the storm or attempt to give the manager another chance. They quickly act on this, they pull the trigger, and before you know it, a new manager is walking through the door at Vicarage Road very quickly. And they seemingly hope that they can survive off new manager bounces as well. That seems to be the main part of this. New manager bounces, the sort of seemingly myth, if you like. Some managers have them, some managers don't, where they just get an instant sort of reaction out of their players and it makes them perform better regardless of the opposition that they're up against. And they actually go on a bit of a run of a few good results and a few good performances. Unfortunately for Claudio Ranieri, he never really had that. The new manager bounce never really came for him, unfortunately. This news, like I say, comes as no shock to anyone. The Watford job is a very unsafe job. A job where a couple of bad results here and there can get you to spring talk about your own future, about getting sacked from the club. We've known for years how this club is run, but still managers still see this as a good opportunity to go there and be interested in taking the job, even well-respected managers at that. And I'm baffled by it. It seems a bit of a poison chalice of a managing job, to be honest, but it is what it is. And unfortunately for Ranieri, who, like I say, was only appointed back in October, it just is what it is, and I think we all knew that this was coming. Unfortunately for him, it ended this badly. So the question now is, who is next in line? Well, like I mentioned, it is Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson was instantly brought to light yesterday as a front runner for the job, and it has obviously continued into today and to a point where he has been appointed. Obviously, Hodgson's last managerial role was with Crystal Palace. He left there at the end of last season, leaving of his own accord to part ways with the club that he'd been at for the past 4 years. And I thought that that would be the last we've seen of Hodgson in football and in management particularly. But it seems that he will be back. He'll be back in management at the age of 74 years old. And he'll be back this time in the dugout at Vicarage Road with the Hornets. Personally, I don't like this move. I do and I don't like this move. I don't like this move simply because obviously he's going to a club that I don't like, particularly how they run the club and obviously how they treat their managers and stuff. And it's simply because that we all know how this is really going to end. Like, it's going to end bitterly, it's going to end a bit toxic, it's not going to end seemingly great. We all know that this will end one way, with Hodgson being sacked one way or another. But not only that, but it might now mean we are seeing Hodgson fall into this category of managers who will float around a little bit and be linked with every single job that you can think of, where a team is not doing so well, they're fighting relegation, but they'll be like the reliable manager to try and come in and save a team from relegation, that kind of thing. You think of over the years of your Steve Bruce's, your Mark Hughes's, your Sam Allardyce's, them type of managers that you know will get a job midway through the season to a relegation fighting team at some point. I just hope that he doesn't fall into that category. But on the flip side, given his age and how much he's spent within coaching and management, maybe this could be seen as his final job in football. So only time will tell on that score. If everything does go ahead the way that it seemingly is, and Hodgson takes charge and has got what he wants out of this job that he will get, he will walk in on a side that is currently 19th in the table. Currently 19th in the table, in the relegation zone. They are 2 points away from safety, but they have 1 or 2 games in hand over some of the teams that are above them, obviously with all the postponed games that have happened this season. There are a few players within that squad that he can definitely work with. The likes of Emmanuel Dennis and Ismail Sarr instantly spring to mind right off the bat as the players that he will genuinely have a fondness of working with, I think. And obviously his main objective would be to keep Watford's heads above water and keep them safe and maintain their Premier League status. Whether he can do that or not is another thing, but I actually think that rather than my personal preference of not liking this move, I actually think this is a bit of a smart move on the part of Watford to bring in a manager who, of course, is a veteran of the game. He has a wealth of experience under his belt. He knows the game pretty much inside and out. And, of course, has a lot of experience within the Premier League itself. And in also knowing how to get the job done. I've always said about Roy Hodgson, it may not always be pretty how he does it. It may not always be the most eye-catching of football you're ever going to watch. But when called upon, 9 times out of 10, Hodgson manages to achieve the goals he and his club have originally set out to achieve for that season. Yeah, there have been exceptions. His time at Liverpool, for example, but that proved to be a club too big for even Hodgson to handle. He manages to some way, somehow get the job done. And right now, Watford need a guy with a decent track record of getting the job done. Look at over his time at Palace as just an example. It was a squad that was not full with talent, not full with high quality players or the most expensive signings or majorly expensive names to that team sheet or anything like that, but he got them to work and play as a team, and that's why despite being in the conversation every single season that he was in charge of as being a team that were likely to be relegated down to the Championship, he managed to help them continue to survive and maintain their Premier League status season after season. And maybe it could happen with Watford. Maybe going forward something similar could happen with Watford going forward. Or maybe this is just a get us to the end of the season and then we'll both part our ways kind of job for Roy Hodgson with the Hornets. Like I say, it remains to be seen what is going to be happening with Roy Hodgson and Watford for the long-term future, but for the short-term, he has obviously been given the task of keeping their Premier League status intact. Either way, whilst like I say, I may personally disagree with this move on the part of Roy Hodgson and personally don't like the way that Watford run their club and how they treat their managers, I can't argue that this may turn out to be a smart piece of business when we look back at the end of the season. But they've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of extremely tough fixtures to contend with each and every single passing game week from now until the end of the season. And when you're thrown into the deep end like this, needing to pick up points and results and wins and everything like that right off the bat for a new manager, it only adds to the pressure. And of course, when you think about where he's at with Watford, their owners, the people in power, the pressure only intensifies because of everything that I've spoken about within this video so far. And, you know, it's a very tough situation for him and the club to be in. It might be a long end to the season for the Hornets. And even despite this move, like I say, I personally think this may be one step too far for Hodgson to achieve. But he does have a good track record. And again, on the flip side of that, I think that with the other teams around them, the squad that Watford do have, I just don't see them maintaining their Premier League status. And I think that once again, the Championship calls for the end of the season when they get relegated. That's just my opinion on that score, and that's just my belief that Watford will go down this season. But like I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think on this story. What do you make of this news that Claudio Ranieri has been sacked by Watford and that his successor is none other than Roy Hodgson, who has been appointed as manager of the Hornets today? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, and most of all your predictions on this particular topic down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out, enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.